Everybody talks Glock. Every damn year, it's the same story. Glock this, Glock that. Reliable, sure. But 2025 ain't just about Glock anymore. There are pistols hitting shelves right now that are shaking things up in ways nobody expected. Guns that are smoother, tougher, slimmer, even flat out more fun to shoot. Some are budget surprises, some are premium hitters, but all of them have one thing in common. Shooters are actually ditching their Glocks to run these instead. You won't see this list plastered on billboards, but you will see these pistols showing up at the range, in holsters, and winning real trust in the field. And that's why today, we're talking about the 10 pistols every shooter will want in 2025, and nope, Glock ain't invited. At number 10, we've got something wild. The Walther PDP match steel frame. You pick it up, and yep, it's got weight, but not the bad kind. That steel frame just eats up recoil, and with Walther's solid grip and trigger setup, the whole thing feels planted. You're not fighting it, just let it run. My friend Alice ran hers in a USPSA match. Things stayed flat the whole time. She said it made her old carry gun feel like a squirt gun. It's not cheap though, as it's around $1,400 give or take depending on the model, but for what it is, that's fair. Most folks have never even seen one at the range, let alone shot it. Meanwhile, they're out here chasing hype guns. This one, it's already putting in the work, and it might just be the most quietly dominating carry pistol of 2025. Some pistols walk into the room and everyone knows their name. Glock does that and SIG does that. The Masada Slim, on the other hand, most folks barely nod at it, and that's the mistake. Yes, I've heard from folks that it's too stiff, the aftermarket's thin, mags aren't everywhere. Fair, but here's what I tell them. How many pistols this size will chew through cheap range ammo without coughing even once? Not many. The Slim will. It's the kind of gun you run hard on Saturday and still trust enough to carry on Sunday. And the best part? It doesn't carry the baggage of a Glock or a SIG. No fanboy wars, no arguments in the comments. Just a pistol that stays quiet and earns its keep one trigger pull at a time. Call it overlooked, call it underrated, but shooters in 2025 are finally waking up to it. Now let's bring it back down to earth for a second with something that's pretty cheap though, but still punches above its weight. The Taurus GX4 XL. Now look, I've had a rocky history with Taurus. I had a G3C a while back, and I'll be honest, it jammed on me more times than I even care to count. Light strikes, feeding issues, even a trigger reset problem once, and I wasn't the only one. A few of my own buddies gave up on theirs after a couple of range sessions, and even our subscribers also complained about this gun. It's just one of those that just looks the part, but just didn't show up when it counted. But the GX4 XL? A whole different story. This thing feels like Taurus actually sat down, listened, and got serious. It's slim, it's red dot ready, and it runs smoother than you'd expect, especially at this price point. That longer slide helps tame the recoil, and it tracks flat without jumping all over the place. The trigger's nothing crazy to write home about, but it's solid and consistent. And you're looking at under $350 with features some $600 guns still don't offer. I ran into a guy at the range, said he was 800 rounds deep with his GX4 XL and hadn't had a single failure. That's the kind of thing I used to hear about Glocks, not Tauruses. But lo and behold, here we are. So yep, if you're thinking Taurus just means cheap and unreliable, I totally get you. The G3C absolutely didn't do them any favors, but the GX4 XL might just be the redemption story nobody saw coming. Now hang tight, you guys. The next one might just hit you like a 440-volt shock. I remember that when the VP9 first started making rounds out the counter, half the room scoffed. Too pricey, just buy a Glock. Why gamble on an HK? Folks figured it was a boutique pistol for the guys who like to brag about German steel, but the funny thing about scoffing, it usually comes from people who ain't shot it. Because once you do, it changes the whole conversation. The trigger's the part everyone whispers about. Not marketing hype, it's flat out cleaner than most pistols twice its price. Coal feels like it was carved, not stamped. That's why even die-hard Glock guys find themselves quietly drifting toward it when nobody's watching. And then there's the feel. It doesn't just sit in your hand, it settles like it's been there before, just waiting for you. A little heavier than some plastic compacts, sure, but that weight turns recoil into something you manage and not fight. People still moan about the price tag, but let me tell you, pistols that actually earn trust don't stay on shelf for long. And in 2025, shooters aren't laughing at the BP9 anymore, they're carrying it. Now here's a name that used to be way out of reach, and somehow in 2025, it's starting to show up in everyday carry rigs, the Staccato CS. Now I know that this thing used to be reserved for pro shooters, competition guys, or folks dropping $2,000 without even blinking. But more and more people are making the jump and realizing it actually lives up to all the hype. It's not just another 2011 style gun. It's compact, super controllable, and that trigger, it's almost unfair. Light, crisp, and insanely predictable. The kind of thing that makes you shoot faster without trying harder. And here's what surprised me. Despite being built like a race gun, it still carries well. Slim profile, no crazy weight, and it disappears better than you'd expect for a double stack. One of my buddies, let's call him Mitch for now, swapped his P365 XL for the CS last fall. I thought he was nuts, to be honest, but a couple of range sessions later, I got it. That gun just sticks to your hand. The downside? Yep, the price. You're looking at around $2,099 depending on the model and finish. Pretty rich for the regular guys, huh? Just remember though, good things always come with a price, but for folks who shoot a lot or carry every day, the CS has been eating into Glock and SIG territory more than I thought it would. 2025 might just be the year it stops being a niche pistol and starts showing up in holsters all across the board. Stick around, because the next one, we're going from premium to ultra practical, and this next one's been climbing real fast. Half the room calls it plastic filler, and the other half calls it the only polymer pistol worth buying that doesn't rhyme with Glock. That's the split the P10C lives with, and it's ugly because both sides think they're right. The truth sits somewhere in the middle. Pick one up and it feels stubborn, blocky, heavy where it doesn't have to be. You think, alright, here comes another safe queen. Then you run it and the damn thing doesn't flinch. Mag after mag, it just chews and you catch yourself wondering why more people don't talk about it. Problem is, talk never saved a pistol. Crowds move where the hype is, and the P10C never had hype, it had grit. It had staying power, and grit isn't sexy, not in 2025, not with the shelves full of shiny optics-ready toys. So this pistol sits in that strange place, mocked by folks who never gave it a chance, trusted by the ones who did. And maybe that's the story. It doesn't need everyone. It only needs the handful who understand it was built to outlast the noise. You know what's wild? Hardly anyone talks about this one, the Eric's Delta Gen 2M. And yet, it keeps showing up. Not on billboards or YouTube ads, but in holsters, range bags, and forums from folks who actually shoot. Once I picked one up thinking it'd just be another Glock alternative, but it didn't feel like that at all. It's slimmer, lighter, more refined in the hand, and more refined in the hand. The ergonomics are on point, The trigger's got a solid break with a short reset, no overhype, just works. The slide cuts are aggressive, and the grip texture is enough to hold on tight without tearing your skin off. Nothing feels cheap here, even though the price says otherwise. Now, it doesn't come with the brand recognition, but the reliability? Mine's gone through a few hundred rounds and zero hiccups. And others who I know running this gun have said the same. No fuss, just function. Price is sitting around $430 approximately, and for what it delivers, I honestly don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Not yet anyway. Give it time though. In 2025, the RX Delta's not trying to dominate the market, but it's quietly carving out its place, and I respect that. Shittiest part first. Half the fellows who bought this thing cursed it the same damn day. Wooden chamber right, max felt cheap, slide hung up. Sounded more like a busted farm tool than a pistol. The other half though, they'll swear on their mama it's the smoothest polymer they ever ran. And that's the problem. A gun that splits a room like that ain't no clear friend. Springfield strutted this thing out like they were done living in Glock's shadow. Big frame, big hands, big talk about duty ready. Looks mean enough sitting on the counter, sure, but swagger don't count when you're wondering if it'll choke the moment the mud hits. I've seen mags with chewed lips, guns that jammed right out the box. I've also seen one run 2 boxes clean and make the shooter grin like a drunk fool. That ain't reliability, that's a gamble. You don't marry a woman who keeps you guessing if she'll leave the night. Same goes for pistols. Echelon makes noise, makes headlines, but noise don't build trust. And trust? That's the only damn coin worth a thing in 2025. This one actually did make me rethink my Glock 19 carry. It's the Shadow Systems MR920. Now sure, it's not on every store shelf, but in 2025, it's gaining real ground with folks who shoot often and know what they're looking for. The frame feels more natural in the hand. Grip texture is actually useful, not overdone. Triggers flat and crisp, and the slides durations, real grip, not just for looks. It runs on Glock mags, Glock guts, but everything you'd normally upgrade, already done for you. And here's the thing. I'm starting to see more of these show up at the range. Not viral hype, just serious carry guns for folks who've already been through the Glock phase and want something with more thought behind it. Price-wise? Yep, it's up there. You're looking at $850 to $950 depending on setup. But in 2025, this is one of those picks that's quietly stacking up more fans than people realize. If we're talking about handguns dominating 2025 right behind Glock, this one's not a mass market king, but it's absolutely rising with the folks who've put rounds downrange. Stick around though. Next up is a full size that's been getting more attention than any striker-fired gun I've seen this year. Okay, here's one that genuinely caught me off guard. The FN Reflex. From the SCAR to the 509, FN's got a solid rep for duty guns, but when they dropped this little micro compact, I wasn't sure what to think. But then I actually shot it. Man, the recoil's way more manageable than I expected, and for a gun this size, it doesn't just feel empty or twitchy like a lot of other micro 9s. There's something about how this thing tracks that just feels right. But honestly, it still can't beat Glock. Now, FN doesn't really do hype. No flashy launches, no influencer overload. But this thing, it's getting more carry time lately than I'd ever thought it would. Slim, red dot ready, optics cut, and that flat-faced trigger is actually decent. Not mushy, not gritty, just predictable. Price-wise, you're looking around $499 to $599 depending on the setup. That's competitive, and honestly, in 2025, this is one of those guns that might actually steal some spotlight. If the Hellcat and P365 had a cousin with FN's DNA and better manners, it'd be this. And just wait, the next pick, That one made me actually rethink my Glock 19 carry. Now here's one that doesn't get talked about much, and maybe that's a good thing. The Ruger Max 9. It's not the kind of gun folks show off, but it's still holding its own in 2025. For under $400, you're getting a micro compact that's red dot ready, runs clean, and doesn't feel like it's falling apart after 100 rounds. That's more than I can say for some guns that cost twice as much. I've had folks ask me, is it still relevant? Short answer, yep. Just because it's not the internet's favorite doesn't mean it's not working. A guy on Reddit said Ruger took forever to replace a striker assembly, even had to go through a consumer forum. Haven't had anything like that myself, and with Ruger, that's rare. Could have been a lemon also, you just never know with Reddit. Anyway, recoil's easy to handle, the trigger doesn't try too hard, but gets the job done, and they didn't skip out on options. You can go with or without a manual safety, depending how you like to carry. Look, it's not built for competition, but if you want something that just vanishes inside a waistband and still hits where you're aiming, the Max 9's worth a second look. Last I checked, you could find one around $379 with the slide already cut for a red dot. That's pretty tough to beat for what it offers. It's not trying to win popularity contests, and maybe that's what makes it stand out. Stick around though, one of the guns coming up, barely anyone's carrying it right now, but I've got a feeling that's about to change. Next up, we've got the Canik SFX Rival S. I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did, I'll be honest, but once I actually ran it on the range, yep, I started to get the hype. If you've ever shot the polymer version, this one's gonna feel like it's got an upgrade in every direction. The all-metal frame gives it just enough weight to eat recoil, and that trigger, it's kinda good, but with a little more control. I've seen it win matches, but also sit on people's nightstands. It's versatile, and it's creeping into conversations where Glocks usually dominate. Now sure, it's heavier than what most people carry. I'm gonna catch some heat for even saying it's EDC able, but if you like fast follow-up shots and hate muzzle flips, this one absolutely punches above its price. It's sitting around $850, but honestly feels like a $1,200 gun. Canik fans already know, and if you don't, just wait, there's another gun coming up that might just steal 2025. Let's shift gears a bit. If you've ever shot the regular M&P 9, the polymer one, you know it's a solid gun. But this metal version? Damn, it hits different. Just enough weight to calm down recoil, and the grip texture? Yeah, it's aggressive, but not obnoxious. It's just one of those guns that feels locked in the second you grab it. What really sets this one apart is how it shoots. Super flat and fast follow-ups. You're not fighting the muzzle, it just stays where you want it to. And what's wild, you barely see ads for this thing. But here in Texas, I've seen more and more folks picking it up. It's low-key blowing up without the hype. It's low-key blowing up without the hype. Now yes, some folks still prefer the polymer frame for carry, and that's fair. But for home defense or range work, this thing delivers in spades. Most people don't even realize Smith makes a metal frame M&P. It doesn't flex for attention, but once you shoot it, it sticks with you. It's that kind of sleeper. You're looking at around $850 depending on the slight cuts and optic-ready stuff. Not the cheapest, but honestly, it feels like more gun than you're paying for. And hey, do keep watching. There's a pistol later on this list that's getting more buzz than any striker-fired handgun I've seen in years. That one caught me off guard. Alright, so let's kick this list off with a pistol that's honestly shaken up the compact game with the sick P365X Macro Tac Ops. Now I know that some of you might be rolling your eyes, another P365 variant, but hang on, this one's actually different. You're getting 17+1 capacity in a gun that still disappears under a t-shirt, and somehow it doesn't feel like a chunky block in your waistband. The grip module is just right. Not too long, not too fat, and the texture actually works without chewing you up. Trigger, good enough to run fast. Controls, and be ready. and the slides obviously cut for optics. A buddy of mine swapped out his Glock 19 for this and hasn't looked back since then. He says it runs faster, shoots tighter, and carries it easier. And trust me, he's not easy to impress. But there is one downside. If you're a lefty, the mag release might feel just a bit stubborn, but that's just nitpicking. And there's one gun coming up later that shocked me. Didn't expect to like it at all, but let's stick with the SIG for a sec. Price-wise, it floats around the $750 to $800 range, depending on where you grab it from. Not exactly cheap, but it doesn't feel cheap either. For folks who want Glock level reliability, but in something slimmer, smoother, and a little more refined, this is one to watch in 2025. Truth is, shooters don't care about brand wars when things get ugly. They care about the pistol that barks every time they squeeze. And these 10, they did. That's why they're here. Not because they're trendy, not because they're pretty, but because they've already proven themselves when it mattered. So let's hear it. Which one of these would you stake your hide on, and which one do you think is smoke and mirrors? These comments are open, and I read every shot fired. This has been Steve, y'all. Don't fall for the hype, and don't worship names. Trust what runs. I'll catch you in the next one.